Rev your engines and fasten your seatbelts. It's time for Thunder Talk with Dan Bailey, keeping you up to date on everything going on this season at Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Thunder Talk is powered by Arcadia Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Now, here's your host, Dan Bailey.
Hey, race fans, welcome to another edition of Thunder Talk on the Winona Sports Network, 99.3 FM. I'm Dan Bailey. We've got an exciting night coming up this week at Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Plumbers Mechanical Group Night, presented by Armstrong Air. PMG will be giving away kids' bikes, a free air conditioning cleaning voucher, shirts, hats, and many other items as well. We will see on-track action from the Kevco USRA Modifieds, the Black Horse Bar and Grill USRA B-Mods, the Buffalo Saloon USRA late models, the Horman's HVAC USRA hobby stocks, and the Centerville Welding and Repair USRA stock cars. But that's not all. At the end of the night, we're going to have spectator races to wrap up the evening's festivities, so you've got to come join us. And it's interesting as we talk about this week's action at Mississippi Thunder Speedway, because we are looking at a potential first at Mississippi Thunder Speedway. First time dual division champion. Will it happen? We don't know. The reason why I bring it up is because this week's guest is currently sitting atop the point standings of both the Black Horse Bar and Grill USRA B-Mod division and the Buffalo Saloon USRA late model division. I'd like to welcome to this week's edition of Thunder Talk none other than Flyin Ryan Olson. Ryan, welcome to this week's edition of Thunder Talk.
Hey, thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me.
You are a former multi-time track champion at Mississippi Thunder Speedway with your B-Mod, but here you are sitting atop the point standings of both the B-Mod division and the USRA late model division. Was this anywhere in your thought process coming into the 2023 season, having such a strong year with both cars?
No, absolutely not. We try to race full-time down in Fountain City. I live a pretty busy life, but points ain't something that I really chase. We just try to come down there weekly and try to have fun, try to win some races, and this year we've been pretty consistent. The B-Mod, we haven't won a race down there yet this year, but we've been top 5 pretty much every night, and then with the late model, been having a lot better season than I ever would have thought. We won a couple races last year, but this year we've been starting out pretty strong, and it's been pretty fun. But leading the points with Lance Hofer and Brad Waits and Corey Reezy and some of those other tough competition down there, it's not something that I thought I'd be doing.
So the question comes up, is it difficult each and every Friday night to pull double duty like this? Jumping out of your B-Mod and strapping into the late model, or vice versa, jumping out of a late model and then strapping in to the B-Mod. First things first, is it just a physical nightmare every Friday night at the track?
Yeah, I don't think people understand how tired we can get inside a race car. It's a lot of full work. Just racing one feature is, I get pretty tired, back when I was 18, 20 years old, probably wasn't nothing just to race a whole race. You're young and sprung and in good shape, and as you get older, you're not in the greatest shape anymore, and it's a little bit more physical. And then with racing two classes, you're jumping from one, and I barely get a break to get into the other class. And earlier this year, we were racing back-to-back, so it was tough. I was going through tech, and the other guy had to bring the car down pit lane over there, and I'd have to jump in the other car, and the cars would be waiting on the track for me to get out there.
In addition to the physical aspect of having to drive two cars each and every night, what's it like transitioning from one style of car, a USRA B-Mod, to another style of car, the USRA late model? Do you have to kind of rewire your brain depending on which car that you're strapping yourself into?
Yeah, absolutely. Both cars drive totally different. So, it's nice to kind of see the track and maybe the track is doing during the first feature when I'm out there. But by the time I get out there with the second car, the second car handles totally different than the first one. So as far as drivability and stuff, it's totally different. But, just the strain of being halfway tired from racing one race and jumping in the other car kind of puts a little toll on you. But, I've just kind of been working myself. I've been doing it for a couple of years now, where it's getting a little bit better, but you can definitely see, getting out in Victor Lane, it takes a little longer, and we got so much more safety equipment now, Hans device and all that stuff, and so it just takes a little longer to get all that stuff off when you get down there, too.
Have you ever been in one of the cars and all of a sudden think to yourself, oh, wait a minute, I'm driving this like the other one, I need to do this differently?
No, I wouldn't say that ever happens. I've been so good over the years of adapting myself to the car. You know, there's a lot of times my crew chief, Jared, he'll be like, well, what do you think of the car? What can we do to make it a little better? Sometimes it's hard for me to give them a straight answer because if the car's a little tight, I'll just drive it a little harder. And if it's a little loose, I'll just not quite throw it in the corner quite as hard. And you just kind of learn to adapt yourself to the car and drive it how the car needs to be drove that specific night according to how the track conditions are. And the track conditions are changing throughout the whole race of the whole night. So how you're driving your car in the beginning of the race might not be how you're driving at the end. It was kind of like last week in the late model. I was kind of driving the car hard, but I was being conservative too, and I was trying to make sure I didn't wreck myself or put her in the wall. And then towards the end, I'm just like, I got to drive this thing harder. It's a little tight, and the track was a little tacky up top. And I was like, the harder I drove it, the faster it got, and ended up pulling off the win.
You're not the only individual who's ever driven double duty, pulled double duty, driving multiple cars on the same night, but usually it is an individual who owns both cars. You're in a scenario where you are driving your own number 21 B-Mod, but you're driving John Duffy's number 47 late model. What's that relationship been like, driving for a different car owner and having to take care of their machinery, but also trying to get it to the front of the field and keep it there?
Working with John's been great. John Duffy's a great guy. He's been racing for like 48 years, and you know, I drove the car last year for him too. And the years prior to that, you know, he had Alex Williamson driving it for him, and then once he got kind of on the road with the USMTS, so then he had John Daly running it for a little bit, and then at the end of the year, he just was kind of looking for something different. And his friend Bob Bouch asked me, he's like, hey, you want to wheel this thing? And I'm like, sure, I'm already there, why not? So working with John's been great, you know, and I always joke with him, just like last week, you know, I'm like, I've been racing this car for you for 2 years, and I've hardly ever put a nick or a scratch in this thing, you know, and I get done racing my car, and the right rear quarter panel is about falling off because I've been scraping the walls and stuff, and so I always kind of give him crap, you know, the last couple of years. He hasn't hardly had to do any body work on that thing, and he's just got to do maintenance and just make sure he gets it to and from the track, and it's been a pretty good relationship so far.
Yeah, you rolled into victory lane last Friday night with the late model, and honestly, it looked like a brand new car. Like you just said, I don't recall seeing any dents or dings or even scratches on that thing, so you've been driving it well, taking care of it, but you've also been driving it fast. You did mention the relationship is good with John Duffy, who owns the late model. What happens if you come into the pits after a race and you say, I think I would like to make adjustment ABC, but John says, no, I want to make adjustment XYZ. But, you know, who's in charge? Who makes the final decision of what changes may or may not be made to that late model?
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I don't know a whole lot about late models and stuff. And so, I mean, he's always asking me when I come in, like, you know, what do you think? Or what should we do? What should we change? You know, and sometimes I'm like, I'm not sure. We just leave it the same. You know, I just seem to adapt to however it is. We talk back and forth, and we'll kind of discuss some things. And the thing that people got to realize is that car that he has, it's a 2006 Masters build. I mean, it's an old, almost an antique, you know. You know, a lot of the guys that we're racing against, they have new MB Customs or Rocket chassis, and this thing's a 2006.
Does it end up being more of a discussion between you two about what it feels like, and then you come to a consensus about how you might try and dial it in or change the way it feels for you?
Yeah, I mean, we try to make small changes, you know. Like, you never really want to make, like, huge changes because you don't know what change worked or not, so... Like last week, you know, we made one little small change from the heat to the feature and went out there, and I still thought it was a little tight. So he called me a couple days ago, and he's like, hey, you know, what do you think we should change? And I'm like, you know, I think we should just maybe do one small little change. And so I guess we'll see tomorrow night how that small change works, and then we'll just kind of play it from here and go with that.
And then refocusing on your own car, your USRA B-Mod, the number 21 machine. You had said earlier as we were talking, you maybe haven't quite visited victory lane with it this year, but you've had a very steady and consistent year. So even without a feature win yet, are you still satisfied? I mean, I'm assuming you're satisfied. You're sitting at the top of the points. But is it as satisfying being at the top of the points without a win?
I would say I'm happy with how the seasons went. I mean, I haven't had a win, so it can always be better. But, I mean, you look at our class, and our class is really growing. I mean, we've always had good car counts in the USRA B-Mod, but just the level of competition that we deal with down there weekly. You know, I mean, you got the USRA national champion, Joe Chisholm, Brandon Hare. He runs, you know, towards the top in national points pretty much every year. He races 3 nights a week. Chris Jackson was there, for a couple weeks, and he's won national championships and stuff too. And a lot of the young guys, like I've been racing B-Mods for 20 years now, but you're starting to get a lot of these young guys. I mean, Joe Chisholm, he's 15, 16 years old, and then you get like the Zach Brahms and the Harley Dice, and you're just getting all these young guys that have really improved and stepped up their game, and they've only been racing for a few years. But, I remember back when I was 18, 19 years old, I didn't really quite know what I was doing, but you had a lot of motivation as far as, really trying hard and wanting to win, and you just had that drive and passion of doing well. And I'm not saying that I haven't lost that, as I've gotten older, but you definitely try to be a little bit more patient, and you try not to wreck your stuff. And I'd say I was a little bit more free and probably wild back in the day. And now you just, you try to be a responsible veteran, and you try to get along with everybody. And, I race hard, but, most weeks, I pride myself on being a pretty clean racer. And usually I get along with pretty much everybody. I don't have anybody out there trying to get after me and wreck me or nothing like that, because I race hard and I try to race them clean, and I expect them to do the same.
Which car, and obviously I'm speaking about the USRA B-Mod and the USRA late model, which one seems to be more fun to drive for you? When you just strap yourself into the car, do you get just as much enjoyment out of both of them? Is one a little more fun, or is it different styles of fun between the two?
They both have totally different driving styles and stuff. Like I've been racing my B-Mod for 20 years, like I said. So I have a lot of fun racing my car. I do all the work on that car myself. Me and my best friend Jared, he's been racing me for 19 years. So we do all the work on that thing, and we pride ourselves on the maintenance and stuff as far as that. And the whole thing with John Duffy with the late model, he does all the maintenance and work on that thing back home in Winona, and he brings it to and from the track, and I just got to jump in and drive it for him. And so as far as the statistics for this year, I've been doing a lot better with the late model, so I guess I would say, that's been a pretty fun car this year. But I'd say over the years, I've had a lot more fun racing the B-Mod, and I've won some pretty big shows with that. And I'm looking forward to the K-Town Clash coming again here next weekend. That's
right. We do have several more Friday night programs in our regular season. So even though Flyin Ryan Olson sits atop the point standings in both the Black Horse Bar and Grill USRA B-Mod division and the Buffalo Saloon USRA late model division, by no means are those championships wrapped up, because he has got some very fast competitors battling with him in both of those divisions. So if you want to find out if Flyin Ryan can hold on and be the very first dual division track champion at Mississippi Thunder Speedway, you're going to have to come and join us at MTS each and every race night. Of course, you can get all the details online about when racing action is coming to Mississippi Thunder Speedway. The very next one, of course, is this evening with Plumbers Mechanical Group Night, presented by Armstrong Air. PMG giving away some kids' bikes, a free air conditioner cleaning voucher, shirts, hats, whole bunch more. All 5 of our regular divisions are going to be racing tonight, and we'll wrap up the evening with spectator races. So a whole lot of fun coming your direction at Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Flyin Ryan Olson, driver of the number 21 B-Mod and the number 47 late model, thanks very much for joining us this week on Thunder Talk.
You bet. See ya.
That was Thunder Talk, keeping you up to date on everything going on at Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Thunder Talk is powered by Arcadia Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram.
You ever notice that when you're on a fishing trip, you drive your boat all the way to the other side of the lake because you think that's where the best fishing is? And the people staying at the cabins on that side of the lake, well, they come and fish where your cabin is. You don't have to drive a long ways to catch the big fish. And at Arcadia Motors, you don't have to drive a long ways to get the best deal on a new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram truck. The best deals are right in the bay next to your cabin. Take the short, scenic drive to Arcadia Motors. ArcadiaDodge.com.